Hi, and welcome back to another podcast here on the Roaring 30s podcast. I hope you're keeping well and had a tremendously beautiful week so far. I had to come back with my girl Jillisa because the last time we got into like some really beautiful conversations, and we were just at the cusp of like another mind-blowing topic, and then we had to cut the podcast. So I asked my girl to come back and join us here on the Roaring Threes podcast, and she's here, Miss Jillisa.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Girl, you dropped gems the last time you were here, so we're so happy to have you back here on the podcast, man. Trust me, it's a blessing.
Yeah, give thanks. I'm always glad to, just share my life experience. I feel like it's a big part of me. So I'm glad to do it.
Thank you so much. So first of all, big congratulations to you, because the other day you were nominated, or you were highlighted as the Future of Good 2024 Young Impact Leaders, presented by RBC Future Launch.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's like, so cool to be recognized for the work that you do, like just for the things that you do on a daily basis, So thank you. Thank you. It's an exciting time, and I'm looking forward to being able to celebrate with my community this summer.
Of course. And I know we talked a little bit about your background and how you got here today. We talked more about what you did in brief, and then your moves, your faith steps to Ghana to be where you are today. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about like what you went to school for and how you pivoted into this, what you're doing now.
Okay, well, it's an interesting story. Like, it's definitely a unique story. So, straight out of high school, I feel like a lot of us are led into just going into like the post-secondary stream. And so that's definitely what I did. I kind of just followed what most of my friends were doing around me, went to school, picked a course, and got in. So I was at college taking general arts and science. Okay, that's how like I kind of just picked something just so that I could, it wasn't really, I didn't really, I guess, choose something that had more of a direct path or anything like that. I kind of just picked something to continue in school. Also because as a Jamaican, obviously your parents tell you have to go to school. So that's just not an option sometimes, and depending on how you grow up. So yeah, I was in general arts and science, did that, had that whole experience. And then when I was 19, I got pregnant. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting time. I was a teenage pregnancy at a time when like being 19 and pregnant was not cute.
Listen, bro, I can imagine your parents like, Jillisa, we said you go to school, and
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I can only imagine.
So, that was definitely an interesting time in my life. And it got to a point where my mom was like, listen, either you go back to school once you have the baby, or you're getting kicked out. So I said, okay, let me find the school application real quick. So I applied, went back to school for psychology. It's like that was my major. And that felt like more aligned to me. I really was into like psychology. Even like now, a lot of the work that I'm doing is still aligned with, that whole kind of world or mindset, or like, just the way that I do things. Basically, you'll hear in the story. But
I agree. I have to agree with that. I think that totally aligns with you, especially with your mentorship program. I can see that for sure.
Yeah. So, I went down that path. My baby was 4 months old. I went to York University for psychology, and it was a hard time. Obviously, I was going through a lot. So my major was psychology. I had 2 part-time jobs, and I had my 4-month-old baby. And just a lot going on. And, basically, I ended up having to drop out of school. I just couldn't do it anymore. The pressure became to be too much. And so I remember though feeling like, okay, well, this is too much for me right now, but maybe I'll come back. And I remember going, like having to go back to the school for something. Maybe it was like my last couple exams or something. Like I went back to the school and I remember passing by the um business school. I feel like it was like called Schulich Business or something like that.
Yes, at
And
York
I,
University.
yeah, right? That's what it's called, right?
Yes.
So I remember going over there, putting my hand on the sign outside and just praying, like, God, if I'm supposed to come back to school and do business, just let it be. If not, then, you know, maybe help me understand or see what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I said that prayer, what about life? And I later realized that, in the position that I experienced as an entrepreneur, I really had the opportunity to learn anything and everything. And so I kind of put myself through my own sort of university and started learning and studying, things that were relevant to my success or growth at the time. So at one point, I was working with Dr. Julius Garvey, the son of Marcus Garvey. So I was doing a lot of research, or my university was faced towards Pan-Africanism and African studies and all of that type of stuff. And then like later, as opportunities evolved, I ended up working in the world of social finance and impact investing. And so my studies, pivoted. I started to learn more about impact investing, what's social finance, and basically it's just investment for your business that helps you create social or environmental impact. Right. And so I started doing that type of research, gaining that type of knowledge, and that became my university. And, because I invested so much time in gaining knowledge in the fields that were relevant to my success, it made me like an expert in all the different things that I do.
That
Um,
truth. That's the
yeah,
truth.com. Before you funding impact, I didn't even understand what that even meant. I had no idea before you.
yeah. Well, I think a big part of it and everything that I do is really centered around like community building. I don't know. I guess that the other day I was thinking to myself, like, uh, what's the word? Like maybe I don't know if I'm a giver,
Yeah,
but
you are.
I would say that I'm generous.
Yes.
Um, and so in like even just in this moment of reflection and what that thinking about that in alignment with like the way that I live and the work that I do, like when I get information, I guess I'm just naturally generous with that information. I want others to be able to learn that too. I want others to be able to experience and engage with the type of things that I'm learning and experiencing and engaging with. Because, in the work that I'm doing, I'm having conversations with, you know, older white men that are talking about, the $75 million that they're able to raise for their business, and then on the other hand, I know that people in my own Black community are having a hard time even getting a $2,000 grant. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So if I have this information, like, of course, I've got to share it and make sure that my own people are getting access to this information and resources and everything else. So, I guess I'm kind of just bringing all of my worlds together as an entrepreneur and ensuring that the Black community has an opportunity to get back to where we came from in regards to leadership and progression and generational wealth and sovereignty
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah, I hear that. And given that you have this conviction and you know that this is your path for sure, How has it been challenging for you to kind of navigate those male white spaces?
Well, the first, or I guess a big thing for me is like, although I am a confident and bold person and I know my value and worth and all that kind of stuff, it's still like I'm still human. So I think that it's easy for us as humans to judge ourselves according to, the work that we produce because we feel that these people that say they have more experience or value than me might perceive it, right? But one thing that I did was kind of disconnect myself or detach myself from feeling like the work that I produced equaled my value as a person. And I
Okay.
think that once I like disconnected those two things, that kind of took my emotion out of it. Um, and then like, the other thing is because I know that I have the ability to, and I do bring so much value to the table, like I just walk with that as my best foot forward because I know at the end of the day, regardless of what anybody wants to think or say about how I talk or how I look or who I am as a young Black woman with locks, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I know for sure that nobody can say anything about the value of the work that I present because I bring my value to the table. Um,
100%.
so yeah, I think that that's like been something that's helped me navigate the emotions and I guess like the mental games that your mind likes to play
Yeah.
in those type of situations.
I feel like you just stopped, you put imposter syndrome on the back burner. You just stop it right there. So you said, listen, where me and you are not tangoing or doing the tango today. Like, we're going to
Yeah,
decide what the mission is. That's it. And that
exactly.
takes some kind of level of maturity.
Girl. Like, yeah, imposter syndrome knocks. It definitely knocks. I just don't answer the door.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's about it. I just don't answer the door. Eventually it'll stop knocking because I've, proceeded to do whatever my mind was trying to trick me into believing I couldn't do.
Yeah. Well, you being able to navigate these spaces and work for TIP, can you just give us a little bit about TIP? What is TIP, just in case anybody's wondering? So when we say it, then you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, sure, sure. I have been meaning to, talk a little bit more about it.
Perfect.
Um, but, I think even as an entrepreneur, if I can say this, like, it is something to figure out how to navigate and balance, business and personal and then mixing the two worlds. But, if what you're doing is who you are as a person, like, I guess it's undeniable. Okay, well, TIP. Okay. So TIP actually stands for the Table of Impact Investment Practitioners. We are recognized as the community of practice for impact investing across Canada. So this basically means that there are many fund managers, investors, researchers, individuals, people that are interested in impact investing that are basically coming together to learn from each other and have real conversations about creating change and through social and environmental impact. So yeah, we're doing a lot of cool things. And yeah, so basically, as the executive director, I facilitate that space, which goes back to my connection with everything that I'm doing is around community building. Like, I'm the executive director of TIP. I am the co-founder and president of House of Nine Sorority, which is a unique space where Black women gather for self-mastery and sisterhood. Right now, we are facilitating some pretty cool programs for Black women entrepreneurs and figuring out how to get their business ready for investments and funding. And then through Funding Impact, it's a space where I can connect our entire Black community into figuring out what like business fundamentals and again, how to make sure that we are taking advantage of all of the money that is out there and available for our businesses. So,
It's
yeah.
like a chain effect going on. Yeah, this is lovely, Jillisa. This is amazing. And when we met a few years ago, um, your intention was always to be impactful in anything that you do. And to see your growth from then to now is amazing. Actually, if you guys don't know, Jillisa and I met on an email thread. We were in a mentorship together, and the mentor was saying something along the lines of like, what do you see yourself being? Like, introduce me, like, give me your elevator pitch. Who are you? And Jaleesa stated who she was. I feel like you said something about either not podcaster, but the person that you wanted to like emulate, maybe like an Oprah Winfrey, or like just someone that has a lot of influence. Yeah, and
You know what's funny? At that time, I used to tell people that I used to introduce myself as the number one confidence coach in the GTA. And I also used to say that I was going to be the next Oprah.
yeah, you see, okay, memories
That was
good.
probably
Thank
like
God.
2017 or something.
Yes, you are right. I think so. 2017, around that time. So, and to see the growth now. So that time you were the confident coach. Yeah. And we did some mentorship there too. And like to see where you are today. Like when I talk to you, sis, I'm gonna call you sis on the podcast. Yeah, sis. Like you give someone that actually like did the work. And you're also now that mysterious person that people want to know, like, how did you do it? How? Because now you're in spaces that majority of the population that we do not know about, So I want to dive into a little bit about your 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 story on how you went from applying to school to be for general arts and science and psychology to now being a part of TIP and all the great things that you're doing right now. Like, can you give us a little more background?
How did that happen?
How did all this happen?
Yeah. You know what? I feel like it happened through practice. I really went out there and decided that, I was going to be the person that I wanted to be. And that was like, a successful business person that, had multiple streams of income. And I saw myself to be a speaker that people were going to travel on a bus to come and see one day. That's like the picture that I had of myself. And so, yeah, I went through this time in my life where I was just saying yes to everything. Like any opportunity, yes. Even if I had no idea what it was and what it included, I would just say yes and figure it out later. And so through that, I really got my feet wet in a lot of things. I gained a lot of experience in, public speaking and sales and, um, you know, even like networking became a really great skill for me. And I through that experience, I also really learned how to present myself in, a way that other people could receive that I was an expert, even in situations that maybe I didn't feel like I was. I, the way people receive you depends on how you present yourself. And so at the very beginning of my career as an entrepreneur, my journey when I was saying I'm a global leader, meanwhile, I didn't even have one client yet. That's how I was presenting myself. So that's how people had to receive me. And it kind of became this thing where I was like, manifesting and like practicing how to, again, be that person that I saw myself to be. Anyway, so back to the career kind of timeline story. So basically I was doing all these different kind of hustle type experiences. I went back, worked the 9 to 5. That experience was crazy to me. I had a really hard time with the working environment. It was making me sick. I went to speak to HR. Homegirl was like, "But we had hot dog day just last week." It sucked. And so he basically told me that the solution was for me to come to work and mind my business. So I came to work and did just that. I did what I was supposed to do. But on the side of my desk, I was also building my own business. And that's when I built my confidence coaching business. A series of events happened, and basically I left the 9 to 5 and launched into my very first opportunity as an entrepreneur. And that was to go to Australia. A mentorship group had brought me out to Australia, paid all of the expenses, and had me there as a mentor, as one of the mentors to 200 college students. Basically, like training them how to be mentors. And so that was a really cool experience in Australia. That summer was when I started working with Dr. Jillisa, and the opportunity that I had said yes to at that time, although I was very scared and nervous to, was, I met someone that needed help with doing a flag raising ceremony for the Pan-African flag at City Hall, Toronto. And so I had helped basically to do some of the organizing in the background. It turned out that it was just me and the person were the whole organizing team. And then it turned out that I ended up doing the majority of the work. And then a few days before, the person was like, "Oh, by the way, we still need an MC. Can you do it?"
Oh, wow. Jillisa.
And of course I said yes. That was an experience in itself. And then later on that year, so that was like August 2019. And remembering this time, I'm saying yes to everything. So I'm also applying to a whole bunch of random opportunities. One day I came across a website that was talking about the World Youth Forum that was happening in Egypt. And so I just applied for it. Although the website seemed a little bit sketchy, I was like, "Oh, it doesn't hurt. Like, if it's real or whatever, I guess I'll figure it out." So I applied for it, left it alone. And later on, they came back to me saying that I had been accepted to attend the World Youth Forum in 2019 in Egypt. So they paid for my expenses once again. Wow. I got to be one of 2,000 youth that they had brought from around the world for that experience. I feel like it was even like more than a week. I feel like I was there for like 10 days or something like that. Food, accommodations, flight, everything. Wow. And remember, this is still my first year out of entrepreneurship. And so, I got the
steps, girl. The steps.
Yeah, literally. And so, through all of that, I was just trying new things. I started consulting and just, just teaching classes, doing workshops, all that kind of stuff. I did a lot of vision board workshops for youth groups and all that cool stuff. And then I got an opportunity to work with a group called SETC, which stands for Social Economy Through Social Inclusion. Basically, it was based around the fact that the Canadian government had a pot of $755 million to put towards this thing they were calling Social Finance Fund. And so basically they were making these announcements, and there was no people of color in the room except for one Black man named Victor.
Yeah.
So Victor Beausoleil basically was like, "Oh, well, more Black people or people of color need to be hearing about this." So I started going around spreading the news. And so after like 1 or 2 sessions, I was like, "Hey, like, I noticed you're doing this by yourself. Like, I can help you. Like, I'm a pretty good facilitator, let me just watch you a 1-2 time and like, I can help you. Don't worry." So based off of that, I started helping out, and then I became the director of community engagement, like overnight.
Wow. Wow. So you put your hand up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically.
Mhm.
And then, so, through everything that I was learning and, I became a mentor through that. I was doing a lot of facilitating, like workshops, bringing people together. Again, back to that community building.
Mhm.
That evolved into a role that I was doing. I was called the systems collaborator of a group called the Solidarity Working Group. And so
Oh, wow.
basically that was still bringing people around figuring out how to ingrain diversity, equity, and inclusion within their organization. Because that was around the time of the murder of our brother, George Floyd.
Okay.
So there was a lot of like call to actions that businesses were putting out, but no actual action. So this group was basically a group of over 180 organizations that were trying to figure out like what were some of the actions. So I
Yeah.
led that group. And then through that work, someone from TIP actually, recognized me and was like, yeah, she does an amazing job. Let's bring her over here. And so I was recruited to be the executive director of TIP. And, that experience definitely was interesting because I had to ask myself, like, is this what I really want? Like, do I really want to do this? Be, a young Black woman leader of a group that is known to be mainly old, male, white, white women. Like, do I really want to do this? And my first answer was no, to be honest.
Mhm.
But, members of my community definitely cheered me on and reminded me that I had, like, put in work and gained experience to be there. And it made me realize that if I said no, it would be a disservice to my community.
Huge.
Because if I said no, who else is like, who's the next person that's going to say yes? Probably a white man, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then the other thing that was even bigger that I realized was that I'd be doing a disservice to myself because, I had gone through and gained all of that experience and then just to leave it behind for what? Because I was scared or felt like, you know, I didn't have the energy or what? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I just went along with it and took the opportunity. And, there definitely was some racial things that I faced at the beginning because, with negotiation of salary, of course, me being a young Black woman, originally they did not want to pay me what I was asking for.
Right.
And they basically chalked it up to saying, oh, well, this is going to be your first time as an executive director. So, you know, yeah, we're going to put some money aside in case you need some extra help or something like that.
Hmm.
And so I was like, okay, but like, I understand that my resume doesn't say executive director, but my resume also doesn't speak to the amount of lessons that I take from my great grandmothers, as you all still try to figure out this diversity inclusion thing. Like I was born with that. Like that's my
Right.
lived experience. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I
Mhm.
can't put that on my resume.
Mhm.
So now what?
But it is a transferable skill. But I hear what you're saying, is hmm
So they were like, yeah, they still didn't want to budge on that, what they were trying to offer me. And I said, okay, well, you want X amount of hours? Well, I'm only giving you 15 hours
Yeah.
a week because, I was able to, I knew my value and presented it as such. So, and then once I got into it, like, yes, a lot of people were welcoming and warming. Like, I cannot lie and say that I've had a bad experience because, with it being so aligned with my purpose and like the people are cool and all that good stuff, I would never say that it's a bad experience. But yeah, there's definitely been like microaggressions and, people just say weird things that it's like, did you really just say that?
Mhm. Like you're not having a conversation in your head. This is coming out of your mouth. You do know that, right?
Yeah, like you want to say things like, "Oh well, impact investing is vanilla ice cream. It doesn't need chocolate sprinkles."
Beautiful. Look at that. The
You
ignorance
know,
just
so
keeps
it's
getting
like,
better.
so of course that kind of stuff happened, but I had to push through and just shake my head.
Yeah.
And those type of things are above us,
Mhm. And you know why you're there. But I'm sure, I think, well, when necessary, you can speak up for yourself. And sometimes your work goes before you. It does shut some people up real good,
Mhm.
real proper. And what I love about your journey, going back to your journey, is that when you were at Shuluk at York University and you touched the poster and you asked God, if this is where you need to be, bring me back here. And he didn't bring you back to Sherlock, but he did bring you into the business atmosphere for sure. You totally switched gears from and like you pivoted from just, yes, still very much so grassroots, but definitely like business, business language, business sphere, business people. So it's incredible. So there's something that you
Yeah.
said to me before we just after we closed the last podcast, and I want you to say it. It had something to do with being called and
Yeah.
qualified. Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely would say that, you can hear you can hear it in my story. There was nowhere in that, you know, would make just someone with a naked eye be like, "Oh yeah, she's the one. We want her because, she went to school or she has a degree or, you know, based off of the books." Um, but I've definitely experienced the power of God in, providing you with what you need to be successful. I think that that's something that I always pray for. I always ask God, please provide me with the tools that are required to meet my destiny and become successful. And so, like, those tools are like the qualifications. Those tools are, the things that kind of provide me with that key or, that security pass that gets me through to the next level. And so don't be afraid to live in that, live in knowing that if this experience is for you, if this job is for you, if this, whatever it is yours, like God will give you the tools required in order for you to be successful every time.
Yes, and it's a true testament, your story about, yeah, our skill sets. And even if we have to veer off a bit, because, life always is lifing for the life of us, right? But our skills actually can edify what God has put in us. So your story is beautiful and a true journey of overcoming. And the thing is, like, you're not even at your peak yet. That's a joke.
Isn't it funny?
You're not even at the peak, but, just making the decision to be obedient, to walk by faith. So the other day I was thinking to myself, or actually today I was thinking to myself, Colette, your greatest Goliath is you. You think it's an enemy, you think it's somebody else who's gatekeeping. No, right now your Goliath is you. You're the reason why um certain things hasn't come to you yet. And it's the thing is it's there. It's just that the door isn't open because you won't open a door because you have faith or it doesn't make sense to you or you're still trying to figure things out instead of, really trusting what God has already said to you, what's been planted in you. So yesterday in church, while I was praying, I said, Lord, you are my shepherd. I need a shepherd. I need you to lead me. Because if it was up to me, like my mind is not still. It's quite busy. It's very busy,
Mhm.
So I asked God to be my shepherd, literally like take my hand, teach me, walk me. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to go where you go. I'm going to like give it my all this time because truly I have nothing to lose. Right. So I think when you get to that point of surrender, if you will, and just allowing for the shift to happen, things like this happen. And it is even like biblical. You see, David was in the fields, like taking care of the sheep, then he becomes a king, right? So like you oftentimes see people who are, and listen, that story is serious because they weren't even looking for him. When the prophet came to the house of Jesse, he was saying, oh, he must be the king because he's tall, he has broad shoulders, he has dark skin, he's handsome, right? And they're like, no. God was like, no, it's not him. And like, all the sons came out and God's like, no, it's none of them. So the prophet's like, do you have another son? And David's dad was like, yes, I do. He's in the fields. And God's like, yep, this is the one. Pour the oil. And so oftentimes it's God is always using the unsuspecting person, the person you think may be the undeserving, but that person actually is so deserving because they work hard, their ethics are in line, they're doing what they need to do, and God finds favor with them. So your story is likened to David in the sense that so unsuspecting because you started off by saying you were 19 and you were pregnant and your mother gave you an ultimatum.
You know, in relation to that, I was listening to Pastor Mike Todd, and he was saying that, if you do the opposite of what you just explained, it's like, you're kind of like, okay, God, like, yeah, can you please do this for me? All right, God, I know you're going to do this for me. I really trust and know that you're going to do this for me. But just in case you don't, let me set up some backup, just in case you don't do it for me, God. So it's like, we also need to know and understand what it is that we're asking God for. That's something that also even came up in conversation with my husband because, after us getting married, we are doing like life planning now. And I said, okay, but wait, babe, we got to be sure of what we're asking God for. Are we asking God for A or are we asking God for B? Because we can't be asking God for A and then to be doing everything to prepare for B. So let's figure this out, baby.
Oh, for real.
So always be sure that, like, yeah, you know what you're asking God for, and you are acting accordingly.
Yeah, that plan B will trip you up every time. And remember last year we were talking, I'm like, oh, I'm coming to your wedding. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. Coming to your wedding, but I thought I leaned into my plan B because I couldn't trust. Like now looking back, it's like, yo, you really trusted God. Like this could have been this could have been really different today, right? But to me, I was like, it don't make sense. So I'm gonna do this instead. And plan B put me in a chokehold of my life. Okay. So like plan B, yeah, set me straight. And God's like, okay, so are we done? So this year we are not doing plan B. We're doing plan A and that's it. And it does come from a place of surrender. If you want to fight your whole entire life against plan A, yo, be prepared because it ain't pretty. Especially if you have a plan B for God's plan. Like you're saying, God, I like this plan, but I don't want to do it the way you're instructing me to do it. I'm going to do plan B. Good luck to you. Yeah. Good luck. I wish you all the best, So yeah, no plan B.
And yeah, don't get it twisted either because I don't want to say like, oh yeah, it's so easy to just be obedient and have faith and trust in the Lord and all stuff. It's not easy. There's definitely a lot of like mental and emotional and spiritual like battle that it takes. So, but I also don't want that to discourage people. I say that to say that, it's not all fairy tales and dandelions or daisies, you know what I'm
Facts.
saying?
Yes.
It's
Facts.
definitely have to put in the work. You definitely have to know the reasons why you are choosing to do or to follow God's direction. Um, and let me just put it like this before we close out. I would say that I'm at a point in life where the only thing that I truly fear is like losing the favor of God in my life. Like my biggest fear is to end up not being in alignment with what God has for me. Like I am so scared of that. And that is what leads all of my decision making at this time in my life. And, I pray that stays like this forever because it's definitely working. I'll say that. It's
Yeah.
working. And because of this, I'm also at a point in my life where I cannot stop now
Yes.
because
I hear
everything
you.
will completely fall apart. Remember, there's nothing that I did to build this up,
Mhm.
right? There's nothing extravagant. I didn't do the school. I didn't do the degree. I don't have the MBA. Like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't come to Ghana based off of my own will. You know what I'm saying? The way that I live and experience life, I didn't build up any of that. So, yeah, my entire life would completely fall apart if I just suddenly decided to leave God behind now.
Yes. I love that. And yeah, yes. Saying yes does not mean that it's easy, but the results the results will far exceed your expectations.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jillisa, thank you so much for joining me here on the Roaring 30s podcast. It's always a joy. Girl, I'm gonna have you on here more often.
Yeah, we can do it in person.
Yeah, we should do it in person. Yeah, we should do it in person.
I hear you.
Which means we'll see you soon. That's exciting. It's getting, well, no, the weather's kind of weird right now. It is kind of weird, but it's going to get warm soon. We're being optimistic.
Yeah,
right?
I heard that it's feeling more like spring these days, at least.
It is. It is. Yesterday there was snow and then it rained and then the sun came out. It was weird. But we're on our way up. So we'll see you soon.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, everyone. As I always say, we are journeying this life together. You do not need to walk alone. The Roaring 30s is here to be by your side. So make sure you join us every upload, okay? All right, take care. I love you. Bye.